Well, is it possible that the 357 Magnum is the best cartridge for a carbine like this Winchester model 1892? Well, if you'll stick around just a minute, we're going to talk about it. Hi, George here, and welcome to Tales from Target Suite, where I'll share my perspective on guns and shooting, and we'll spend some time at the range. And every now and then we'll reconvene out in my shop back in Houston or here at the farm in Louisiana, where I'll build some fun projects, and we'll share an adventure or two that'll make even a grown man smile. And yes, we are going to do the best we can because we are in the middle of a worldwide ammo-demic. And so getting factory ammo pulled together to make a video like this is just nigh on to impossible. But I do have 3 hand loads that I want to show off here today, and they kind of run the gamut between 357 Magnum ammo that you might choose. And hopefully by the time we're done and we shoot a few rounds here into the ballistics gel, that you will have some opinion about the 357 Magnum cartridge in a carbine. Now, you notice that I don't have any 38 special because this 1892 Morocco Winchester 1892 is 357 Magnum only. And so I won't be shooting any 38 special, and I really only have a very small sample of ammo, and so it wouldn't really be a good fit for this video anyway, because we are talking about 357 Magnum. And here are the rounds that we're going to show off. We've got some Missouri Bullet Company 158 grain semi-wad cutters. Those are our Burnell hardness 16. These hand loads are traveling at about 1,500 feet per second. And speaking of pandemic, these are loaded with a moderate load of IMR 4227, and at that loading you can get over 480 rounds per pound of powder, and so that just really knocks the cost down a lot. Our second bullet is the 158 grain XTP from Hornady. And this guy is traveling at about 1,850 feet per second, hollow point. So this is going to carry some pretty good energy into the target and into the ballistics gel. And then our last bullet is the 180 grain cast performance hard cast bullet. It has a hardness of 18 to 21. And we already have a wound channel, a permanent wound channel here in this ballistics gel, from that same bullet fired out of a 35 Remington. In fact, the 2 wound channels we have in here right now are from last week. One is from that hard cast, from that cast performance 180 grain bullet, and the other one, the smaller permanent wound channel, is from a 30-30 with a nozzler partition bullet. And so we're going to shoot 2 of these 3 into the ballistics gel once we're done, and compare permanent wound channels, because if you're going to talk about the 357 Magnum as an ideal carbine cartridge, you're probably going to be thinking a little bit about the hunting potential, and so those are 2 good candidates for hunting. So we'll see what kind of demonstration they put on here in the ballistics gel. And so let me get loaded up. I'm going to fill a magazine full of these red Missouri Bullet Company hard cast bullets, and we'll just send some rounds downrange. In fact, let me go ahead and get my ears on so I can start shooting as soon as I get loaded. And we'll do some shooting and just have some fun, because if you're going to have a 357, or if you're going to have a lightweight carbine like the 1892, you need to be able to have some fun, and these bullets are perfect for that. So let me get them loaded up. Okay, here we go. It is a lot of fun. So I've never really considered the 357 Magnum as a potential hunting cartridge, but there's a lot of folks out there on the online that do, and with some of the velocities that I'm getting out of the carbine, it certainly opens the door for the possibility of it being a close range deer and pig cartridge, and I hope we'll see some good results here in the ballistics gel with the hard cast bullet, the 180 grain hard cast bullet, which gives us some pretty good penetration and maybe a great wound channel like it did here in with the 35 Remington, which it really made a better wound channel than the expanding nozzle or partition bullet. But we'll see. And so between the Hornady XTP 158 grain traveling at 1,800 feet per second, over 1,800, and the 180 grain traveling at 1,650 or so feet per second, we ought to get a pretty good idea. So let me put some more targets up there, and we'll shoot a magazine here with the 158 grain Hornady XTP and see some more explosive action. You know, when I was digging around trying to find bowling pins, I ran across this guy here. And there's a name right here. It's really faded, but the name is Race, R-A-Y-C-E. And what's significant about this pin is I featured this in one of my earliest videos. And it was about bowling with my miniature scale Dictator mortar with a steel ball about this big. And you can still see the imprint of that steel ball right there. And so I hope you guys, if you haven't browsed my channel, there's some interesting things out there that really don't have a lot to do with much, but this is one of the series that I did 3 videos with that Dictator mortar, and one of them, skipping balls across the pond right over here, was was pretty darn impressive. But anyway, I'll put a link to one of those videos here, and you can check it out if you're of the mind. So let's get these XTPs loaded up. And the Winchester 1892 does hold a few of them, more than 3. And again, these are traveling quite a bit faster than the 1,500 feet per second with the cast bullets from Missouri Bullet Company. And so we should be imparting quite a bit more energy downrange, plus it is an expanding hollow point bullet. So let's see what we can do here. Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's a lot more exciting than the cast bullet. So I talked to Clear Ballistics this morning, and I asked them how many rounds can I put through a block of gel before it loses its integrity. And because I wanted to be able to continue shooting this, I didn't want to have to stop and cut this thing up and remelt it and recast it over 2 bullets from last week. And so anyway, he said between 4 to 6, and it depends on the kind of bullets you're shooting. And when I told him I was shooting 35 Remington, fairly low speed, he was like, yeah, you ought to be able to get 6 shots. And so we're going to put 3 shots through this guy, and I'm going to get set up and do that here in just a minute. And so you know about the 180 grain cast performance bullet. We're going to shoot that one, and then we're going to shoot the 158 grain XTP. And then I have one other bullet which I haven't shot yet, and I'm not going to shoot it except for what we're going to do here in the gel. And that is this one. This is a 100 grain Lehigh Defense fluid transfer monolithic bullet, solid copper. And I want to see what it does in the ballistics gel. We've shot it on channel before in other cartridges, and I want to really, this is actually the second video that we're doing with ballistics gel, and I want to see what it does inside the gel. Okay, the first shot we're going to take here is going to be with the 180 grain bullet from Cast Performance. Wide flat nose bullet. .158 grain XTP. Okay, and the last one is the Lehigh Defense XD Extreme Defense bullet. So I'm really excited to see what this does, just for an academic exercise. So let's see what happens. First thing let's do is let's take a look at the gel block. And this largest permanent wound cavity right here is from last week. That's the 35 Remington at fairly high velocity. That's this guy right here. This straight line is that's 180 grain cast bullet. This straight line right here is the 180 grain cast bullet at a lower velocity, and it blew through all the water jugs. I didn't have this guy here, but it blew through 4 of these things. Okay, the Lehigh Defense is this one right here. This one right here. And that bullet went through 1 water jug, 2 water jugs, bounced off of this one and disappeared somewhere out there. Actually went through 3 water jugs and then bounced off of that. It's somewhere out there in the grass. And then the Hornady XTP right here. And look at the Look at the fan out here of petals that came off of that expanding bullet. And it left a pretty good wound channel. And it was captured in the third water jug. Now let's take a look at that guy. Okay, well, it lost quite a bit of mass, but that sure is a pretty mushroom. All right. Oh, and by the way, there is the gas check from the 180 grain bullet from last week's shoot. And so after making that really nice big wound channel, it dropped its gas check before moving on into the water jugs. Okay, well, there you have it. And the super slow-mo, as you could tell, didn't turn on for 2 shots. And disappointed in that, but that's maybe someday I'll have a better camera. You got to see the GoPro and see what those wound channels look like. Just not as dramatic as when the super slow-mo camera turns on, because it has to auto trigger. But what do I think about the 357 Magnum for a carbine cartridge? And I would say that it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot more enjoyable to shoot recreationally, in that the recoils can be much lower. And if you have a Marlin or a Henry that has that allows you to shoot 38 specials, and you've got a noise reduction device on the end of it, then that brings in a whole nother dynamic of shooting. But that's not my shooting style, and so I will leave that up to you guys to comment on. But I like the 357 Magnum. Is it the best one for a carbine, a lever gun carbine? And I would say not necessarily, because I really like the 1892 44 Magnum. And so if I wanted an all-round carbine, especially a lever gun, or even my Ruger carbine, my original Ruger carbine, I would pick 44 Magnum, because you can get a little bit better performance for hunting. In fact, quite a bit better performance for if you're going to hunt with the 44 Magnum than you can with the 357 Magnum. So no, I wouldn't say the 357 Magnum is the best, but it is a lot of fun, and I am glad to have it. And we will put lots of rounds downrange with this 1892. And I hope at some point to get that chambering issue worked in, because some of these rounds just don't want to chamber real well. But anyway, it's really been fun. Again, I probably left something out. And for you guys that were here last week, you got to take a look at the wound channels of the 35 Remington that I missed doing last week. And now I'm going to show you another side of me. And it's all about cow calling. And so I hope you'll stay with me for just another minute. Y'all ready? Okay. Be still. I'll see you in the next video.